This is my friend Reuben that we bump into each other regularly at antique fairs. We had a chat the other day, didn't we?
That's right,
At
yeah.
Kempton Park.
That's it.
I think you're the person I see the most around antique fairs and auctions anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
You must be one of the most well-known collectors there is.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for 50 years.
Collecting for 50 years.
Collecting on and off for 50 years.
What have you collected over the 50 years?
Oh, you name it, I've collected it. I've collected early electrical equipment, early electric light bulbs, musical instruments, early firearms, and weapons. You name it. Early gas cookers. That was
Gas
another
cookers,
weird one.
yeah.
Right. I had the finest collection of antique banjos in the world at one time, which unfortunately I sold to Japan, much to my regret. But money talked in those days. But there you are. We do these things.
So you most of these collections you haven't got, but you're still collecting.
I've still got. I'll keep bits and I've kept.
It's in your blood, probably, isn't it? You just
I
like
was in
myself.
my blood and my father's.
And how did you actually start collecting? What sort of field did you collect in first?
Well, I collected everything at first. I had my little museum when I was 8, 9 years old. You know, at home I had all. My dad, of course, encouraged me, and that was the days when you could buy nice ebony sextants for a shilling, and
nice ebony.
Ebony sextants for a shilling, and ivory flutes for a shilling, and things like that. And,
so it was bits and pieces, small stuff.
No one wanted it.
Yeah.
It was junk. It was absolute junk in those days. I mean, pistols used to get off the kids at school. You know, I used to swap. I used my dinner money to buy a pistol off a kid at school, 2 bob, get a nice.
So you're actually walking around starving because you spent all your money on
not
dinner
exactly,
money.
but you know, I was encouraged by my parents, of course.
Were they collectors as well?
Yes, well, Dad always collected. He was always interested in works of art and nice things.
Oh, so you didn't really have a choice.
No, well, it was the thing that was in the blood, and that was from my father's encouragement in a way. And it really started when I went to my baby school, my primary school, and the man then had a little museum on the open day at the school. He put all these little curios for the kids to see, and I thought I'd like to do that and collect things. I was about 8 or 9 years of age, and that's really what started me off. And I collected all manner of wonderful things, you know. And so I've got some photographs which I'll show you later on of me at that period of time. And since then I've always kept a few things. I went into the antique tradables, which is a natural thing to do. But of course I always kept bits and pieces, and that is how I've accumulated what I've got here now.
I think perhaps one of your first serious collections was early musical instruments, wasn't it?
Possibly, yes, I think it was actually, yes. That's when I really branched out to do one thing.
Things like offerclides, like you've got one on your lap here.
That's right, yes. I mean, the sort of thing.
A nice unrestored one.
That's
quite
right.
hard to find these days, actually.
That's it. Well, the first one of these I bought was when I was a kid. There's a greengrocer down East Lane, which is South London here, and he used to sell all these things. He did a bit of scrap metal work in the back, although he's a greengrocer, and he had one of these things in the back. And I said, how much is that? Well, my dad did. I don't know, about 8. But hang on, we'll put on the scales and weigh it. 5 shillings, he said. So that was my first Ivy Clyde.
Oh, 5 shillings,
Yeah,
so it's
5
just paid
shillings.
the scrap metal weight.
A lot of money in those days, though. You know.
Yeah.
When my Dad and I only went down the lane with 10 bob in our pockets. You know, and of course we bought lots of wonderful things.
Actually, proportionally, that was good value compared to however much they cost today. It's probably a lot more than people
a
earning.
lot more now, I suppose, yeah.
So this is actually a fairly recent acquisition, isn't it?
Yeah, I bought this about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You know, but,
So this was the beginning of you starting to collect instruments again, I think, wasn't it?
Not really. I mean, I've always collected them.
Yeah.
I mean, I always had a few.
But now you're collecting them and hanging on to them.
I hang on to what I can when I can.
And I think one of the other instruments, I think in your early collection was a serpent, and now you have one again.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
That's rather nice art with brass keys and ivory inserts.
That's right. That's by a man, Thomas Key, and.
I've got a key one, and that's YHY on it. What does that stand for?
That's the Yorkshire Hussars Yeomanry, which was a military instrument, that one.
So most of these were military instruments, I think, weren't
the
they?
earlier ones were used in churches. And
I thought they used them later on.
They used them later on as a military band, and what the churches generally had the belt straight. But the military ones, of course, had the bell turned out slightly, as you can see on
like
this
the 14 key when I got that turned out. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's for marches. I didn't get in the way their saptac or their sword. So they turned the bell out.
And what is an offer, Clyde?
Well, the Clyde is the predecessor, the one after the serpent really. I mean, they brought out the bass horn after the serpent, which was a very similar instrument but an earlier type. But then that was a free key as much as the serpents were. Then after that they decided to make them in brass, which is how the overclock came about.
I've seen one that's half brass and half wood.
Yeah, it'd probably be well, the Russian bassoon, well, the so-called Russian bassoon came out about 1820. It was invented by a man called Hilary in Paris. And that was brass. Of course, they had a serpent top. That's what I call it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. They're few and far between now, I think, aren't they?
Very few. Occasionally, I think you see them in Paris or France, but not so much in England.
And did you used to play all this sort of instrument?
I used to years ago before I was ill. Yeah, I used to be able to play, but now I can't play too much.
Now you just collect it.
Just collect it.
You like them looking old and not necessarily restored.
Exactly, you find them.
Yeah.
No, you have to clean them up slightly, but there's always a mistake of me to clean them up right. You know. Some of the keyed bugle.
Blow the dust off.
Something about dust. That's part of the age. This is in terms of keyed bugle for obvious reasons. But again, it was a military instrument, and they often called it the Kent bugle as well, because it was adopted in the army by the Duke of Kent. They obtained the name of the Kent bugle.
Oh, yeah. So the keys are so you can get a lot more notes from it.
Exactly, yes.
Was this before piston valved and
yes,
rotary valved instrument to be and probably a bit difficult to play, I imagine.
Yeah, they're much the same as the serpent, but once you get used to it, then I mean, it was.
So is that the original mouthpiece?
That's the original mouthpiece.
They're hard to get hold of. Is this a recent acquisition?
No, I've had a few years that one.
It's rather good, isn't it? Not many of those come up these days.
Not so much now. No, they used to come up quite regularly. But that was made by Percival. Percival, which is.
Get your head up when you
says Percival opposite. What's that? St James's Square, London. That was the address. I suppose there were many shops or places there then. I mean, it's quite nice.
I think the West End.
Yeah, that one's a slide trumpet, about 1840 I should have made them. But Kohler had a lot to do with those. I mean, there's various types of those.
So you're really looking for early instruments of early 19th and 18th century.
19th century, if you can find it. But
boxwood clarinets with ivory mounts and flutes.
That's right, yeah.
They've always got a nice warm colour, haven't they? Sort of wood.
Yeah, they look lovely. I think the combination of colours is beautiful, you know, and the workmanship, of course, is wonderful.
And this oboe over here with all its brass keys, that's rather nice, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Fekta by Trubert, Paris maker. Probably about 1840, I should think, 1830, 1840 period.
And even a cello looks an interesting cello.
Cello is an interesting cello because this is what a church bass.
What do you mean by
an 18th century church bass?
What do you mean by a church bass?
Well, the village carpenter used to make them for the church.
Yes.
You know, as I mean, the church was.
As opposed to proper luthiers making instruments.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the
local person would make.
Who volunteered to make the church for nothing, probably, you know, for blessing, you know, from the priest, probably.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it's very basic without the proper carvings.
Yeah, very basic and very quite crude, but again very historic. And that's particularly nice because I've got most of its original fittings. The original tower piece, which is the old. Even got the peg.
Wooden peg.
The wooden peg. I mean.
A lot of these cellos, I think, we used just held like Val de Gambas, weren't they?
Very much so, yes. Yes, but I should think it's about 1820, that one from the style. It's basic, very basic, and made out of cheap wood, of course.
Cheap light wood.
And but that is
probably did its job, didn't it?
It did its job, yeah, exactly. You know, that and that took the place of serpent, of course, being the bass. You know.
But there's all sorts of instruments around the place, but bassoon over there and early recorder there. But I notice it's all around your flat. It's not just instruments. There's lots and lots
I've collected everything. During the years I've been in the antique trade and as a collector, I've collected and I've kept.
So you know the bargains when you see them.
Well, I try to. Yeah, but you don't see so many now. But they do turn up. Yes.